an automotive company manufactures two types of two-wheelers of similar configuration, right? So one of the important assumption in linear programming is like it looks into the similar, entity. Dissimilar items cannot be solved using linear programming problem. So that's why I've given us a similar configuration, TW50 and TW60. So it's just a nomenclature. We define two types of two-wheelers, and which must be processed through assembly and finishing department. Say it has to go to assembly, then followed by finishing department, then only we'll get the product. All right. So there are so many other processes in between, but we just only look into these two assembly and finishing processes of manufacturing these two-wheelers, these two types of two-wheelers, right? The assembly department and finishing department have 216 hours and 192 hours of work time available per month respectively. Say, which means that an assembly department works for 216 hours per month and 192 hours of work time. I mean that's the finishing department's availability or something like that. So the main objective of our linear programming is a constraint, right? So it's not, they don't work many hours or unlimited hours, but they have a restriction on assembly as well as the finishing department, the working hours, right? Then manufacturing of one unit of TW50 requires 4 hours in assembly and 2 hours in finishing, right? So whereas the manufacturing of TW60 requires 3 hours in assembly and 3 hours in finishing. So this is the general requirement for this two types of two-wheelers. Right? And if the guaranteed profit per week for TW50 is 7,000 per unit and TW60 is 9,000 per unit, determine the best possible combinations of TW50 and TW60 in terms of quantity to be produced maximum and sell to achieve maximum total profit. So which means that we need to find a solution. The solution will be the optimum number of TW50 and TW60 so that the company gets profited. Say we can manufacture only one type of unit, or we can manufacture both in tandem or in a combination of T50 something and T60 something. So that's what we're going to look into the solution. That's what basically the solution is all about, right? So understand this problem. This is a production problem, approximately closer to industrial engineering, and it's a single period. Say we just deliver it as it, like it's not a multi-period when which we talked about the batches coming in and batches moving out. So not such problems, a simple single period production problem, right? Say once the problem is given, first we need to understand the characteristics and we need to understand the constituents of the problems and the values or the constraints in detail. So to do so, first we'll understand number of variables. So in this case, we have got two-wheelers, which is what our objective function should be. So maximizing the number of productions of two-wheelers, right? Say I'll give x1 for TW50 and x2 for TW60. You may give x and y depending upon your convention, but when you have multiple variables, then it will be better if you have x1 to xn, so number of variables, something like that. Say I want to keep it x1 and x2. You can even try with x and y. It's up to you. There is absolutely no issues. TW50 corresponds to x1 and TW60 corresponds to x2, right? And this is a very, very, very important thing. Once you read a problem, then jot down this table. This is very important. So the criteria is assembly and finishing, or assembling department and finishing department. These are two criteria and two types of two-wheelers, TW50 and TW60. And the assembly requires for the hours required for assembly for TW50 is 4, whereas for finishing it is 2, whereas TW60, the assembly is 3, whereas finishing is 3, right? Something like that. And the profit yield by the TW50 is per unit is 7,000 rupees. Whereas the profit yield by TW60 is 9,000 rupees per unit, right? And then the limitations. This is the maximum operable time for assembly department, and this is maximum operable for finishing department. So that's as simple as that. So we had a overview of what basically this problem is all about, right? Then we talked about the objective function. So once you define number of variables and this particular tabular form, then next step is defining the objective function. Objective function for this is be maximization, right? So we'll maximize the profit. Nobody's going to minimize the profit. So we'll be maximizing the benefit criteria. So in this case, is a profit as a benefit criteria. So we'll be maximizing the profit, right? So how do we go about to state the objective function is that Z max equals to C1 x1 plus C2 x2. So which means that C1 is the coefficient of the decision variable x1 and C2 is the coefficient of decision variable x2, and x1 corresponds to number of TW50 and x2 corresponds to number of TW60, right? And this coefficient is this profit, so 7,000 per unit. Unit multiplied by number of items gives the overall profit, right? So that's as simple as that. So coefficient is just simply for TW50, it's 7,000 x1 plus 9,000 x2, and we may not know what is x1 and x2. That is what we're going to find. So that will be our solution, right? So this is the objective function, and we need to maximize the value. So x1 and x2 takes a value so that the Z max is maximum. So that's a basic objective function, right? Then two linear constraints. So we only have two linear constraints. Remember that first we will put 4 into x1. This is assembly criterion or assembly constraints. Say 4 into x1, which is TW50, plus 3 into x2, which is nothing but the assembly criterion for x2, which is TW60, and assembly criterion is 216, the maximum operable time. We cannot have greater than equal to, but only less than equal to. Anytime greater than 0, but less than 216 will be the criterion. That will be our criterion, right? So same way, you can take a look at the finishing criterion. It is 2 into x1 plus 3 into x2 less than equals to 192. So this is the criterion. So this is how we define the constraints or system of linear inequalities. So this is basically the system of linear inequalities. But it will be very difficult to solve using the inequality equations. So we'll convert this inequality, the system of linear inequalities, into system of linear equations. Say, how do we do it? It's like we know that this is greater than equals to, and sorry, this is less than equals to, and this is less than equals to. So which means that this is almost equals to this thing. So we'll take that, converting the inequality into equality constraints. So that's what mentioned here. We'll take the equality constraint. Then we'll have C1 equals to the criteria 1 equals to 4x1 plus 3x2 plus 3x2 equals to 216. And then the next criterion is 2x1 plus 3x2 equals to 190. So this is basically the inequality gets converted into equality constraints. And finally, we have got the constraints. This is a system of linear equations, right? Then non-negativity restriction. We know that x1 and x2 takes a value greater than equals to 0. Negative values are not permitted in linear programming, and hence all the things are greater than equals to. We cannot have -1 units of TW50, right? So that's meaningless. But we may have 0 units of TW50 because we don't produce any of them. So as simple as that, right? So it will be 0 or any positive values. That will be our x1 or x2 values. Fine. Okay. Right. The first method is the algebraic method. As I told you, this is a very simplified method, and we would have done this in 10th standard mathematics, solving a system of linear equations. So we'll make use of that. The first is you don't have to really do substitution method, elimination method. Then there's another thing called cross multiplication method. So you can take any one of those, but let me explain each one of you. You can pick any one during your exam. You don't have to really do all the methods in algebraic method, right? Say first we'll take equation 4. This is the equation 4. 4x1 plus 3x2 equals to 216. And this is called substitution method, right? So in this case, you can take either equation 4 or equation 5. Then you can write one equation in terms of the some decision variable, either x1 or x2. Say in this example, we have taken equation 4, and and we wanted to have this equation in terms of x2. So what we have is 3x2 equals to 2 and 6. We'll take this 4x1 to the other side. So we'll take the 4x1 to the other side. Then probably we'll substitute 3x2, which is available here, right? So 3x2. If you don't want to do that, then you can even take this 3 in the denominator also. But since we have got 3x2 here, we can replace this method states as a substitution. We can substitute the 3x2 in the equation 5, which is nothing but 2x1 plus 3x2 equals to 192. So instead of 3x2, we can substitute the modified equation of equation 4. In this case, we call that equation 4a, right? Say 3x2 equals to 216 minus 4 into x1. So I substitute in that. Then when you solve that, we'll get the value of x1. x1 equals to 12. So substitute x1 either in equation 4 or 5, we'll get the x2 value. So the x2 value is 56. So which means that we can produce 12 units of TW50 and 56 units of TW60. That will fetch you the maximum profit. So this is all about the algebraic method, right? So this is a substitution method. Another method is called elimination method. Say in this case, we'll take equation 5. You can even take equation 4. That does not make any significance, right? In this case, to show contraction, I'll just take equation 5. In equation 5, we'll multiply by negative sign on either side. Say I'll multiply by negative sign on either side. Then I will add equation 5a, which is the modified equation of 5, with the equation 4. Say I'll add equation 5, 5a with equation 4. Then this minus 3x2 plus 3x2 in equation 1 gets cancels. And finally, you have 2x1 equals to 24, right? Then x1 equals to 12, which is the value which we got from elimination method as well. Then you can substitute the value of x1 in either equation 4 or equation 5. Then you'll get the value of x2 to be 56. And this is typically the elimination method, right? So you can follow either substitution method or elimination method, but both approximately the same, not much difference. But the third method is called cross multiplication method. So the third in the algebraic method is the cross multiplication method, a little different, right? So I just wanted you to pay attention to this. The reason is that we'll have an equation like this: a1 into x plus b1 into y plus c1 equals to 0. Remember this c1 is not the right hand side coefficient. It is it was brought inward. If you bring it to the right hand side coefficient, this will become minus c1. So that's one difference that you should really need to understand before solving using cross multiplication method, right? Then another equation is called a2x plus b2y plus c2 equals to 0. So this is the equation, standard equation. This is a standard equation. What we're going to do is we will be comparing our equation, the constraint equation. Remember equation 4 and 5. So we will be taking or will be visualizing our equation with the standard equation. So that's mentioned in 4.68 and something 4.69, right? So this is to right. So once you have this form, the solution is fairly the same. This is the solution: 1 divided by a1 b2 minus a2 b1 equals to x divided by b1 c2 minus b2 c1 equals to y divided by c1 a2 c1 a2 then c2 a1. So something like this. So we can substitute the value of the coefficients here, and we can find the values of x1. And here I just put x and y. It is x1 and x2, something like that. Right. Since because of this, what do you call the nomenclature, I've just put x and y. Otherwise, it is x1 and x2, something like that. Right. Say you can remember the formula using a mnemonics. This is a mnemonics. You can remember this formula. If you can't remember this in exam, you can simply write down the coefficients a1 a2 b1 b2 c1 c2, then repeat a1 and a2. Then you can put a cross multiplication of this, right? Say 1 divided by A1 B2 minus A2 B1 x divided by B1 C2 minus B2 C1 equals to y divided by C1 A2 minus C2 A1. So as simple as that. Right. So we'll get this form. So that's a mnemonics. But you can even remember in this thing also. If you remember this, then finally first term and last term, something like that. As we define this equation, I have already invariably stated those nomenclature as well. Right. So that's pretty much a cross multiplication method. One of the important thing, as I told you, remember that you take C1 in terms of negative values, right? So our right hand side coefficients or positive variables, positive values, only positive values in the right hand side coefficient is acceptable. Hence, in all the linear programming problem, it should be a positive right hand side coefficient. In case if you encounter a negative value, then there's a procedure to change that to a positive value. So I'll discuss that when we discuss the theory portion of linear programming problem, especially the algebraic and graphical method, the theory part of it, right? Say what we do is we have to bring this C1, C2 here to the left hand side, which means that this will become minus 216 and minus 192. Then right hand side will be 0. So to match for a cross multiplication method, the value of A1, which is 4, which is the coefficient of x1 in equation 1, and A2, which is the coefficient of x1 in equation 2. B1 is the coefficient of x2 in equation 1, whereas B2 is coefficient of x2 in equation 2, and C1 and C2 are the right hand side coefficients brought to the left of the equation respectively in equation 1 and equation 2. So as simple as that. Fine. Next, what you do is you substitute that in the formula. Say in this case it is 1 divided by A1 B1. A1 is 4, B1 is 3, so 4 into 3 minus A2 is 2, B1 is 3, so 2 into 3, so 2 into 3, and same way you can substitute this and find out the solution. Say remember in C1, in this case B1 into C2, which is minus 192. Remember, it is not 192, it's minus 192. Otherwise you will not get the solution by cross multiplication method. So this one drawback, whereas the substitution and elimination method are very straightforward, so you don't make any mistake at all, something like that, right? Then 1 divided by 6 equals to x1 divided by 72 equals to x2 divided by 336, right? So if you want to find, we can take x1 and this 1 by, x1 divided by 72 equals to 1 by 6. Then you can find the value of x1. If you want to find x2, you can find x2 equals to x2 divided by 336 equals to 1 by 6, and you can find the value of x2. Or if you find any one value of this thing also, you can find the other thing. So as simple as that, right? So in this case, I'll equate x1 by 72 equals to 1 by 6. So 72 by cross multiplication, 6 into x1 equals to 72. So x1 equals to 72 by 6, which is nothing but 12, right? So we know the value of x1 now. So you can even substitute the value here also, like x1 takes the value of 12. Then you can find x2 by 336 equals to 70, 12 by 72 also. So 12 by 72 is nothing but 1 by 6. So either way is the same, right? And 1 by 6 equals to x2 divided by 336. Then the value of x2 is 56, right? So, or 12 by 72, which is nothing but this particular component. 12 divided by 72 equal to x2 by 336. So we'll get, either way, we'll get x2 equals to 56, right? So this is typical. This is a part one of the algebraic method. So in the first part, we talked about the elimination method and substitution method, then cross multiplication method. In part two of algebraic method or numerical method is the matrix approach, right? Or matrix method or matrix approach, right? Say the coefficients are given in terms of the matrix form. Say A1, A2, then B1, B2 multiplied by x1, x2 equals to C1 by C2. So this is typically a matrix form. This is the coefficients of the decision variable, and this is the decision variable, and this is the right hand side coefficient. Remember, the value of C1 and C2 in cross multiplication method is negative. We take the negative value for C1 and C2, whereas in a matrix method, we'll take C1 as such, as a right hand side coefficient, like the positive value, whatever we get it in the real equation, the equation 4 and equation 5, whatever we get, this will be C1 and C2. So that's a basic thing that you should know about, that's a basic difference that you should know about cross multiplication method as well as the matrix method, right? So matrix method is fairly easy. In fact, many computer programming uses matrix method for solving linear programming problem, because since it's a two variable, it's very easy to solve, using the algebraic method, especially the substitution method or elimination method. But if you have a number of variables, then it'll be very difficult for you to really do using the substitution method or elimination method, or even by cross multiplication method, right? So in that case, people generally prefer matrix method. So what we have made is, we have made a matrix coefficient. This is a coefficient matrix, and this is the decision variable matrix. This is a 2 by 2 matrix. This is the 2 by 1 matrix, and this also two right hand side coefficient is also 2 by 1 matrix. And this is simply, if you wanted to elaborate that, it is A1 into X1 plus B1 into X2 equals to C1. Then A2 into X1 plus B2 into X2 equals to C2. So the two equations, the two constraints are actually mapped very beautifully in the matrix form, right? And we know this coefficients. Remember that the right hand has a coefficient C1 and C2 is positive, or you don't think that's a positive. It is as given in our constraint system of linear equations for the problem, right? So take and substitute the value. And first what we do is, we'll take inverse, because inverse of this coefficient, because this matrix has to go here, so that you can find an inverse and then multiply the inverse with the right hand side coefficient. I mean, matrix multiply the inverse with the right hand side coefficient matrix, then you will get a value of x1 and x2, right? And probably, inverse of a 2 by 2 matrix, which is nothing but this is a determinant value, 1 divided by a1 b2 minus a2 b1 multiplied by, you interchange this b2 and a1, then you change the sign of, reverse the sign of b1 and b2, say minus b1 and minus a2. Then we'll get this particular thing. Probably can take a look at this 3 minus 3, then minus 2 and 4. Determinant value is 1 by 6, which is nothing but 4 3s are 12. 12 minus 3 2s are 6 is 6, equals to this. Then you can multiply this with the thing, and you can still multiply this, or you can retain this 1 by 6 and you do do a matrix multiplication first. Then you can go about and doing the multiplication with the 1 by 6, or dividing this values with 1 by 6. In this case, when you multiply 3 into 2 and 6, and something like we'll get something called 72 here, and 336 here, and row into column. So 3 into 2 and 6 minus 3 into 192, minus 2 into 2 and 6 plus 4 into 192. So that will become 336 and 72. Then 72 divided by 6 is 12, and 336 divided by 6 is 50. I think 56. Yeah, 56. So what does this mean is, x1 equals to 12 and x2 equal to 56. And remember that this is what we be achieving in all the methods, like substitution method, elimination method, cross multiplication method, and matrix method as well. So this completes the method of linear programming problem using algebraic method. So that's a very important thing that you should really know, right? And the next very important thing is called the graphical method. In fact, why do we call 12 and 56 is optimum? We only get out of a solution, right? So how do you say this is an optimum value? So that thing can be verified using graphical method, right? So graphical method is also two part. One is the corner point method, another is the iso-objective lines method or iso-objective contour method. Say, let's talk about that in little detail, right? Let's take a look at the equation 4, which is 4x1 plus 3x2 equals to 216, right? First, we'll substitute the value of x1 equals to 0 to find the value of x2. Say, when you substitute the value of x1 equals to 0, we'll get a value of x2 equals to 72. So the, the value of x1 comma x2 for this equation 4 is 0 comma 72, right? So this is one coordinate. Another coordinate is that substitute the value of x2 equals to 0 in equation 4. So if I substitute the value of x2 equals to 0 in equation 4, which is 4x1 plus 3x2, instead of x2 I substitute the value of 0 equals to 216, so which means x1 is equal to 554 and x2 is 0. So we have two coordinates or 2 points which is used to draw this linear constraint, which is the 4x1 plus 3x2 equals to 216. Similarly, we do repeat the same process for the other fifth equation also. Fifth equation is nothing but 2x1 plus 3x2 equals to 192. So in this case, first I'll substitute x2 x. It is actually not x, is x1. x1 equals to 0. So I substitute x1, 2 into 0 plus 3x2 equals to 192, which is nothing but x2 is equal to 64. So we'll get 0 comma 64. Similarly, substitute the value of x2 in equation 5, which is nothing but 2x1 plus 3 into 0 equals to 192, which means x1 equal to 96, which means 96 comma 0. So we have got 2 points, right? Say, right. And the line 2x1 plus 3x2 passes through this coordinate 0 comma 64 and 96 comma 0. Whereas the line 4x1 plus 3x2 equals to 216 passes through the coordinate 0 comma 72 or 54 comma 0, right? Something like that. Say we have got this final graph. Say this is x1 and this is x2, right? And remember the points which we have marked. So this is 0 comma 70 and this is 0 comma 54. This is 54 comma 0 and this is 0 comma, I think it's a 64, right? 0 comma 64, yes. And this will become 96 comma 0, right? So when you mark all the points, you can draw the lines. I remember that 4x1 plus 3x2, this particular first constraint, so this red color line, right? So I have made the some arrow kind of mark here, right? So reason is that all the values beneath this will be the possible solution, right? When I say less than equals to 216, below this region, less than equal to, the arrow should be like this, right? So that will be the possible solution. Whereas in the second equation, 216 plus 3x2 less than equals to 192, same way, the below, the arrow mark is drawn below. The reason is that whatever might be the below region, that's a possible region. That's a possible region for the solution, right? So the reason is that when if this is value is greater than equals to 216, then all the values, the arrow will be opposite direction. So all the values above this region is possible. So as simple as that. So that's one important thing that you should really know about the graphical method. Know the constraint and draw the this kind of small arrow. This arrow is just for indication, right? So whether the region falls beneath or something like that, right? So that's one important thing that you should know. Another important thing is that the intersecting region. This is a one region with the red color marks, and blue region is all this region, and whichever is common region, that is the feasible region or solution space. So linear programming problem is very beautiful in the sense that it will yield a solution not in a bigger range but in the intersecting range. And another important thing about linear programming problem is that you don't have to really find a solution lying in this region. Say the corner points. So if the solution is there for a linear programming problem, and that will be available in any of the corner points, right? So in this case, how many corner points? It is here 1, 2, 2. This is the intersecting point, right? So intersecting for both the lines, and then the third point here, and sometimes you'll have 0 comma 0, that also a corner point, right? So That's generally ignored because that will not fetch you any solution. What happens if x1 equals to 0 and x2 equals to 0? So we don't have any solution at all, right? Or any profit at all. So this is not a, you don't produce anything, you don't have any profit, as simple as that. So generally this is ignored. We only have this three corner points, right? So this three corner points, and we need to find out which one is feasible or which one yields the maximum points, right? So to do that, we have to see this table, observe this table carefully. We have got 0, 0, which is if you substitute x1 0, x2 0, z max is 0. Even though that is within the feasible region, FR stands for feasible region, it is an origin, so we don't take it as a consideration. The next, substitute 0, 64, which is a corner point here, and then we substitute x1 equal to 0 and x2 is equal to 64. We have got something called 5,76,000 as Z max. It's within the feasible region, yes, because 0, 64 is here. 0, 64, it's within the feasible region. It's a corner point, right? Then 0, 72. So it has got 6,48,000, and so it's a very huge number. But the problem is that that is not within the feasible region, right? So that's not within the feasible region. Say this does not considers feasible. This is not feasible in the sense it's not possible. It's not possible for us to do, right? So any point above this or beneath this except this point is not feasible, right? And then there's a point which is an intersection point, which is 12, 56. Remember, this is 5,88,000, and this is within the feasible region, and this is a maximum thing. When we'll come back to this remark a little later, but understand that. Next is 54, 0. 54, 0 is here, this point, and when you talk about that, yeah, that's also feasible within the region, but it's pretty much less when we compare to the previous value. The 96, 0, which is not within the feasible region, even though this yields the highest in this value, but it's not within the feasible region. It's not within the feasible region, right? And that's why the marks not feasible or given at this crossed. This is called O times, which is given this cross marks and circle. And among this, yes, we have got 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, we got 0 is the origin, and this is 5. We can rank them. So the maximum among the S is 5,88,000 rupee, and that will be maximum. And this is an intermediate. It's called between symbol. So this is a between. So since it's only one between, sometimes you'll have multiple between values. You can discard that. And minimum, this is very minimum. You provide that bus minimum stuff, right? So which means that our optimum solution will be 12, 56. So that is what we've been achieving from the this is the value. It will be our optimum value. That is what we'll be achieving from the algebraic method. Right. One of the reason we do graphical method is you can estimate the answer very quickly. But the drawback for a linear, graphical method for linear programming problem is that you cannot draw for three variables. You need special computers to draw three variables. And anything beyond three variables are practically impossible using graphical method. So graphical method can be drawn only with the maximum of two variables. Sometimes people can use computers to draw three-dimensional graphs, but getting a feasible point in that will be very difficult, right? So unless you program the computer to give you a feasible region, a feasible solution, something like that. Because in a two-dimensional thing, it's a point, it's a one-dimensional entity that gives us the value. In a three-dimensional graphical solution, we'll have a two-dimensional element, which is the line. And if it is a four-dimensional, it will be a solid, it will be a plane. And as the dimension gets increased, we'll have the complexity in terms of arriving the feasible region, something like that, right? And then another method is called isoprofit line method. It's not a very different method, but it's it's a more powerful method in addition to corner point. So for that also you need a corner points to draw the graph. So it's not a different method, but this is just a verification to say whether the corner point, the maximum, the optimal point is correct or not, something like that. So in this case, like we have got 12,56. We say that optimum because of that gets substituted in the value, and that's within the feasible region. To verify that, we'll use this method called iso objective lines method, right? Something like that. Right. So for this case, we'll take equation 1, which is our objective function, and write equation in terms of x2. You can write in terms of x1 also, depending upon your convention. But I generally prefer you can take x2. So when you take x2 equals to minus 7 by 9 x1 plus 1 by 9,000 z max. So all these things, when you do a proper substitution or rearranging the terms, you'll get this particular thing, right? And this is called family of parallel lines. So depending upon the value of z max and x1, this gets varied, and this x2 line can be drawn with the slope minus 7 by 9 and y-intercept, which is y-intercept is substituting this actually x2 intercept, but we call the nomenclature as y-intercept, which is when you substitute x1, you'll get the value of x2, then that's what basically the y-intercept. So when you substitute the value of x1 equals to 0, it is 1 by 9,000 z max, or z max by 9,000. So that will become 0 comma z max by 9,000, right? And then what you do is you substitute the value of the optimal function, right? So 12 comma 56 optimal point 12 comma 56 in equation 6 will get this thing, right? Z max value to be 5 lakhs 88,000, and finally you'll have this. So this is an iso profit line. Say, remember that it'll be very difficult at this point of time to grasp this. Anyway, this video gets recorded. You can play it back any point of time and understand the concept better, right? So one thing is we have only put Z max value here, and then we have got in terms of the equation in terms of x2 and x1, right? And that is called iso profit line. Say when you have that minus 7 by 9 x1 plus 65 1 by 3, substitute the value of x1 ranging from 0 to any number, you will have this line, say the black line here. No, so this is called iso profit line. Remember, this iso profit line passes through this corner point, so hence it is maximum, and hence this is optimum. So this is one way. Some people they wanted to be pretty sure, they wanted to do a double or triple check to verify that this is, if this is the objective function, I mean if this values maximizes the objective function. So they draw different iso profit lines and check if there any other iso profit lines intersects at the corner point, and that corner point yields a maximum value. I repeat, in this case we are pretty sure that this iso profit line passes through the optimal point. Like we also can produce multiple multiple iso profit lines if we draw, and if that intersects at any corner point, and if that maximizes the objective function, then that will become the optimal point, not this, right? Or we can do a check that if this is the only point which is optimal in this case, right? Something like that. So that is called iso profit contours. Say what we do is, instead of Z max is 5,88,000, we'll substitute like something like 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh, 4 lakh, and 5 lakhs and 6 lakh. Instead, in the value of equation 6, I guess. Remember, it is equation 6, right? Yeah, in this case, we'll substitute 1 lakh to 6 lakh. Remember, we know the objective, maximum optimization value is 5,88,000. We can go up to 6 lakh, or if you wanted to go beyond, then you can type in 7 lakhs also. Doesn't matter, doesn't make much difference. So we have, how do we take this is arbitrarily. So don't worry, we have just taken it arbitrarily. Don't take it 10, 15, because it is 5,88,000. So you cannot have as many infinite numbers of iso profit lines, right? So what I'm gonna do is, first I'm gonna put in this the black color, which is the Z max is 5,88,000. So that's a black value that corresponds to this origin. Then we'll start with the 1 lakh. Z max is 1 lakh. So when the Z max is 1 lakh, it does not intersect any corner point. And Z max is 2 lakhs, it does not intersect at any corner points. And the Z max is 3 lakhs, and it also does not intersect at any corner point. And Z max is 4 lakhs and 5 lakhs, then 5 lakhs 88,000, then 6 lakhs, and I just stop with that because after that there is no corner point at all, right? So that there could be some corner point here, but that's not in the feasible region, right? Say among this, probably this value is the maximum. I mean, this is the max. This is the value that is the maximum value for the Z max, right? So that maximizes the objective function. And remember that in a maximization problem, the ISO profit line has to start from the origin and goes beyond, right? In a minimization problem, it is the other way around. So we'll be looking into the minimizing the objective function. So something like that. So this is a typical example of, linear programming problem. And we talked about the maximization case, right? So in the next class, we'll be focusing on the minimization problem. So here it is a minimization problem. But minimization, there isn't any separate way of doing that. What we do is, we'll talk about minimization of the function equals to minus of maximization of the negative f of x. So remember that minimizing f of x equals to maximum of g of x. G of x is nothing but minus f of x. Remember, this is a little confusing, so I just draw a graph so that you understand this much better, right? So in this case, f of x is 2x plus 15, whereas g of x is minus f of x, which is nothing but minus 2x minus 15, right? So when you draw f of x, this is the value, and g of x, this is the value, and f of x, the minimum value is 5, and the maximum value is 25. Whereas in a g of x, the minimum value was minus 5 and the maximum value was minus 25, right? I mean, something like that. Say, you cannot call this a minimum value for minus 5 because minus 5 is more than minus 15, I guess. So it's as simple as that. Remember that, if you remember one, the other thing you can remember much better, right? So as the formula says, minimum of f of x equals to minus of maximum of minus f of x. So which means that here's the description of that. In figure, the above figure, the minimum value of f of x is 5. So the minimum value of f of x is 5, which is equals to the negative of the maximum value of g of x, right? So the negative of what is the maximum value here? It is minus 5. Minus 25 is lesser than minus 5, right? So minus of minus 5 is 5, which is f of x, and vice versa. So this is how we generally do. Remember this problem. I mean, this formula. Minimum f of x is equals to minus maximum of minus f of x, right? So this is the convention, right? So this, completes today's lecture.